Hey, welcome to the Articulate Ox podcast, where artists talk about the art that made them artistic. I am your host, Soma79. I really appreciate you joining us for another episode. My guest today is San Antonio rapper Beedo. I was so happy to talk to Beedo. The topic that she chose was Tyler, the Creator. And Tyler's somebody who I didn't know a whole lot about. I've been aware of him since he kind of hit the scene, but didn't really realize just the depths of him as an artist and all the cool things that he's done and all the effort and energy he puts in everything he does. And, once you start peeling back the youngling on Tyler, there's so much cool stuff there. He's a really amazing artist. He just has he's got a star quality to him, and he seems limitless. He seems like he can do whatever he wants. And, it kind of reminds me of Beedo because she has a little bit of that star quality too. And she is a very intelligent, fascinating, awesome person to talk to. And she's a damn good rapper, and she works her ass off. She just got off tour pretty recently, and sounds like she's looking forward to getting on another one whenever she can. So check out Beedo, check out her social media, and check out her music on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. And I hope you enjoy our conversation. Peace. And once again, I forgot to mention, stick around to the end of the episode to check out the song Stuck by Beedo. Thank you very much. Hey, this is episode, I think, 15 of the Articulate Ox podcast, where artists talk about the art that made them artistic. Thank you so much for joining us. My guest today is San Antonio rapper Beedo. How's it going?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so I've been watching your videos online. It seems like you really got it. You know how to rap. You're
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah,
I finally made it.
I know. You have. Where's my rubber stamp to give you the stamp of approval?
He said I'm a rapper, so I'm a rapper.
Yes,
guys.
yeah, that's all the validation you need.
Definitely.
As some 44-year-old white dude lives in a tiny town. I'm the one that decides, in case you're wondering. Yeah,
Obviously.
yes.
Yeah, and now the world knows.
Right. Yes. Now the world knows.
The Grammys.
Yes.
It was all in the sky.
Well, hey, speaking of the Grammys, Tyler, the Creator is who we're talking about today, and I believe he won Hip Hop Album of the Year for this one, right? And maybe did he also win it for this one? I thought I said he won
Flower
2
Boy
years
was
in a
the
row.
first one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yes.
I already had the one. I'm always so bad with the names of the albums, but I already had this one.
Get lost.
Yeah, I was never. So Tyler for me was someone who, when he first came out, the first thing I ever heard about them was they were doing a signing at Newbury Comics in Boston, and it turned into a near riot, is I believe the way it was described, and a police officer was hurt. And then they did a show at the House of Blues in Boston not long after, and it got shut down. And at the time, I was like the biggest mall in New England. I had a condo in it, and there was a Newbury Comics in there. So it was like I had a record store in my basement, which is like my childhood dream. And I was like, I don't know who Odd Future is, but I'm going to go find this CD now. And I got down to the store, and there was a woman that was maybe like 15 years older than me who was doing the exact same thing as me. She's like, my son likes these people, and we got to find the thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I relate more to you or your son, but
right.
No, and that was this record here.
So, yes. Yeah.
I can't even remember the names when it's written on the top. So, what are your earliest memories of Tyler?
So my absolute introduction was still during Odd Future, in like 2010, 2011. They had not really like blown up yet, but they were definitely already well known, and they were coming through San Antonio and performing at the White Rabbit, which RIP the White Rabbit, it's all San Antonio folk, but it's classic San Antonio music venue that I grew up going to. Like all my favorite music memories I saw at White Rabbit, as well as like lots of local shows, which is now the Paper Tiger. And I think that the Paper Tiger as a brand still upholds the same like
that's good.
Amazing venue. So Odd Future came through and performed at White Rabbit, and my friend, I was in high school at the time, and my friend had tickets. She was a fan of them, and her friend couldn't go, and she was like, honestly, I think you would really like them. Like, I know you haven't heard them before, but just knowing like your music tastes and stuff, I think you would like to go. I was like, yeah, I'll always go to any live music.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what genre it is, I'll go to any live music. So we go, and I felt in love with everything that they were doing. And with Tyler himself, he was just like one of the most exciting, like electric performances that I had ever like personally seen live before.
Hmm.
And this is a very intimate venue. There was less than 100 people there
Wow.
when I saw them for the first time.
What is that all the venue holds, or was it just that they were
It
that new?
holds, at the time, it probably held like 200 people inside, and there was an outside area that you could also see the stage from.
Yeah. So this
So it
must have been
wasn't like
pretty
a
early. This must have been one
humongous
of their
venue,
first
but it
tours,
was
probably.
very early. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
And just super electric performance, getting to see like Taco was there and Haji was there and Sid was there. And like, I just fell in love with like everything they were doing, which is hilarious because they're so ragey.
Yeah.
But I think I was really ragey too at the time. And I
That's
was
what
just
high
like,
school's for.
they're everything
I
I
mean,
feel.
I bought this shirt at the Smashing Pumpkins concert in high school, and this is the album where he's like, "Despite all my rage, it's still just a rat in a
Yeah.
cage." So yeah, it's
Exactly. And I mean, some of my like earliest introductions to hip hop in general were Beastie Boys and
oh,
Rage Against the Machine. And, like, so I was already like really ingrained with that like ragey rap,
yeah.
like, and so then Odd Future was just like the culmination of that. And I've been, like, I took a picture of Tyler on stage that night, and it was my background on my phone for like the next 10 years. Like,
Did you get? I
so
mean, with that few people there, did you get any chance to interact with them at all that night?
yeah, tons. Actually, it's one of my favorite stories about like interactions with Tyler over the years was he jumped in the stage or out into the audience a ton of times, which like especially in those early days was like Odd Future signature, but
Right.
especially
Yeah.
like before Lil Uzi Vert was doing it,
Yeah.
Tyler was jumping in the crowds a long time ago. And he was doing that, like interacting, like he would get like real right in your face, because you're like, chest up against the stage in this venue. So
Yeah.
all that, and then the show ends and everyone's ushering, all of Odd Future off stage to the back. And Tyler points to ask the security guard to, whoa, who's that? And the security guy turns around and he takes off the other direction and runs into the crowd with us. And he's like, yeah, and he's like hugging everybody and stuff. Like, because security was trying to rush them to leave,
Yeah.
and he literally like pulled
Wasn't having
like
it.
a joke to get him to like be able to go and interact with us. Like it was a really, really cool.
That's the type of energy you can't fake either, because
Yeah.
it's also the type of energy that is infectious, and it's it obviously that night started your
Yeah.
love of them forever, but it's authenticity is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, 100%. I think they all have like always represented that, like they've never not said what they felt. So they've always been very authentic.
Yeah, we'll get into sort of the things they said and how they felt, because I mean I definitely had to do a few Google searches this week. Is Tyler the Creator gay? Because, and I'm just wondering, because so I kind of sort of got back into him this year. I didn't keep up on the news with him, and I was like, oh, Flower Boy, he mentioned these mentions about like kissing men and stuff like that, and I was like, I remembered him from back in the day and some of the things he said
Very
that
like
people didn't really like. And
like,
and the only thing I knew about him in between was that I saw. Ever seen Pop Star, the Lonely Island movie?
yes.
Where basically the character, I think it's Chris Red, is basically playing Tyler. And I was
Yeah.
like, and I didn't realize that. I think I thought he sort of got laughed off the scene a little bit, but then I realized no, I wasn't paying attention. I was just being an old idiot.
Well, he made a shift in the scene, I think, like an intentional shift in like his focus and what his music was doing.
Yeah.
So I think if you were part of the crowd that like he was popping up in your newsfeed all the time, I think it kind of moved. So if you didn't
Right.
move, if you were intentionally following, then it probably just seemed like he just wasn't popping up anymore, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and for me it was, I mean, I identify as non-binary, so it was interesting to me to see somebody, oh, I didn't realize there was some, as a rapper myself, I didn't realize there was somebody at that level who, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, the websites, like, and I don't really care, but like it was interesting how there was, they couldn't decide or not, it was like some sites had decided he was and some had decided he was trolling, and I'm like, this is interesting. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's I
Um,
don't know. Finally, someone plays the media, but
yeah, which I mean has been, funny enough, two of my favorite people in the world, Tyler the Creator and Greg Popovich, both people that will sit there and like just make fun of the media in their
oh
faces
yeah,
and
he's the
be
guy.
like,
He's
don't
the
ask
he's
me
the coach from the Spurs, right?
this first. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I've seen so many
He's
videos of
just
that
like,
guy.
don't ask me stupid questions. You're gonna get stupid answers.
I
And that's how they
know.
both always have addressed stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I respect it.
yeah, yeah. The best we have is Bill Belichick, and less said the better.
Definitely.
So for you, did you follow him pretty much all along his career from there?
Pretty much. Definitely his music I followed throughout the whole thing. I went in and out of following like interviews and like what was going on. Just because I have like there's a duality about following your favorite
Yes.
celebrities,
Yeah.
because there's, I can appreciate them for the art that they do. And like they're unbelievably talented, and it's undeniable that they're talented at this art and how their art impacts me. That I listen to this and it makes an impact on me. And then there's the human being, the flawed human being
Right.
that's doing it. And we just, more and more and more we find out these things about all our favorite people.
I know. And then
And
it's
like,
like, yeah,
yeah, so I go in and out of following any celebrities. So I would say like not necessarily like not following Tyler for any periods of time, but just like not following
yeah.
celebrities.
It's
So
funny. There are some celebrities that I'm not into what they make, but I kind of like them as people, and like I'll follow them.
definitely
But there's
those.
some people like, I mean, I mentioned like Smashing Pumpkins, like they were my favorite band in high school. I'm wearing their shirt now. I don't think I follow any of them on anything, and it's
Yeah.
like I never think about them like I did, unless I'm like putting on a
Yeah.
record. And it's
Yeah.
weird that I guess we can just pick and choose like that these days. It's much better than what it used to be.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and I think it is varying degrees, and for every person, it's varying degrees too. So it's like tough to kind of weed through like what information about this is important or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I had never seen Loiter Squad until a few days ago.
Really.
Um, oh man, where has that been?
What
Like
a wild ride. To
the
tucked deep, deep, deep in the back file cabinet of Adult Swim. That's
I
where it's
know,
at.
I love Adult Swim, and
Yeah.
I watched like a lot of the first season. I'm gonna go back and watch the rest of it. But the thing that got me the most is when they were doing the thing where they made the blurring things appear in their faces, and they were just like,
Yes.
I haven't laughed that hard in so long, and
Yes.
it's
Oh my
so
God.
stupid but so
So
amazingly brilliant.
stupid.
It's
Yes, I know. This is like it's just they give out the undeniable energy
right,
of like just doing fun, stupid shit with your friends.
yes,
Like that's what they've always been about. Like Tyler too is like a big platform. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of bullshit going on. There's a lot of like serious things going on, but like sometimes just be stupid.
right.
Just be stupid with your friends. And that show is definitely them being stupid.
They also, on that show, they look like they belong on television. Like they don't look like they have the charisma, they have the look, they have everything. They have like, even if they weren't making music, they still kind of have a star quality to them, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that comes from I mean, one, they've been making skits like that forever and putting them on Vine and all on their MySpace and all kinds of stuff like forever.
Yeah.
And so they already been doing stuff like that for us. They're a little bit more practiced, I think, which definitely helps them to like actually be able to do a great job in like, acting it and doing the energy and
Right.
everything. And
You
you
can
don't have
tell they
to,
probably had a lot to do with the editing because it feels like that's crucial to it. Like it feels
yeah,
like that all their experience doing stuff paid off when they got their opportunity.
yeah, for sure. And then I think also like one thing about Tyler that's a huge inspiration to me that definitely also I think spans most of the people that were originally part of Odd Future is like the most multifaceted part of it that pretty much all of them don't do just music. they also do film, or they
Right.
also act, or they also model, or they also do scoring, like not even rap music, but they do different music. And they all have like all these things that they do. And so when you see them, in a position of like, acting or something, like they have all this experience in all these different modes of art and different modes of production and different modes of entertainment, that I'm sure it all kind of comes together so that when they don't have to think about all the nitty gritty of the stuff, like they can just do the acting and
Yeah.
just make it enjoyable.
Yeah. Like when I looked up Taco, who I'd never heard of before this week, and I saw he had like over 1 million Instagram followers. I'm like, oh, this guy's a legit star.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he's like a like, and it's like now there's so many legit stars that you can't even keep track. So I don't like, you know,
Oh yeah. I
but
feel
I'm
like
like,
every
oh,
time I look up an Instagram account, I'm like, this person has, over 1 million followers or something. I'm like, I've never even heard of them.
yeah,
Like,
I know.
there's so
It's
many
like,
people in the world.
I know. It's like they can't all be people pretending to be like Bitcoin investors, which I think is like half my followers, you know. I'm like, when the URL in your bio is www.bitcoin.com, yeah, I don't think that you're really
Probably not. I get a lot of marketers that can't spell marketing, which
I
is not great.
I know. And once this AI stuff starts being used as a way to like make its own spam, we're all gonna be screwed. We're gonna literally be just
So
buried in it.
bad. So bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I worked in marketing for a decade, and
I do
so
marketing too. Yeah.
yeah, and so like seeing the advancement of technology is like exciting, but also like, man, there's just like so many ways to infiltrate the normal person's day to day.
I know. It's pretty crazy. It's yeah, I try. Yeah.
We're gonna find out what to do with all this technology one day.
I
One
know.
day we're gonna
One
find
day
out
we
what to
will.
do with this that's gonna matter.
Hopefully the AI can figure it out. I don't know. I just still marvel at how even in our, like, definitely on this old Apple laptop I have in 2008, I probably have better recording equipment than the Beatles had in their entire career, and I probably have it better on my phone too to some degree. And that to me is
But
like,
man, it still sounds good when I put that vinyl
I
on.
know that's the thing too, is that you
Reason
can't.
why analog equipment is so sought after. It has that
Right.
like that quality that just like it just infiltrates your ears in such a different way. Even that the most high quality, high tech produced songs that we make now just doesn't hit you the same way as
Yeah.
that old stuff does.
In the past year, I've turned into a sounds better on vinyl guy, and
I'm just currently that
yeah,
person.
and I used there was in a different time, a different place. I thought I was going to be like the greatest rave DJ in the world. But here we are. But I still have the
There's still
turntables that
time.
I already have a little bit of tinnitus. I don't need any more. But like I went out and bought turntables 20 years ago that were way beyond what I ever need, but I still have them and they're built like tanks. And I'm it's like I'm so happy
That's
to be able to
awesome.
just play, because there is something about listening to a full side of an album now, like just experiencing it more, and even just forcing yourself to get up every 22 to 30 minutes to
Right?
move, you know?
Literally, and I think it just makes me appreciate, like you said, listening to like the full side of the album, and it makes me appreciate like every ounce of like every second of that was reviewed by someone that they agreed like this was the art I wanted to make, and this is what it
Right.
sounds like, and like as much as I can appreciate that when I'm listening to something like on my phone or whatever too, like I'm a busy person, and when I'm driving around, I can just be like, skip that one. I'll listen to it later.
Right.
Like or get to the end of a track and there's some like long outro, and I'm like, well, the first time I heard it, yeah, it's a great outro, but I'm just gonna skip and go to the next song. But when you're listening to it on vinyl, like the work you'd have to do to skip a portion of a song.
Right. It wouldn't be worth it. You're
That's
just
so much
like,
work.
I know it is. And then you're not going to land in the right spot, and then you're going to
Yeah.
hit
So
something. Yeah. Ugh.
yeah.
I had to work through about 2 weeks of technical problems getting my stuff. It was like, oh, now one speaker plays, but the other one doesn't. And now there's too much hissing, and now there's too much humming. And then we have a little music channel at my job where we talk about stuff. And anybody can help me with this. And when it finally came out right, it just was like a needle drop in like a Quentin Tarantino movie. I was so happy.
I love that. I can feel it, like all the tension building up, trying everything, and then it just works.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But
Love that.
yeah. So in terms of your own development as a rapper, How when did you start rapping? Were you already rapping when you got into Tyler? How has his work influenced you there?
So I have been making music my whole life since I was a kid. I like started learning the piano when I was 8. This keyboard right here, actually, this exact same keyboard is the one I learned how to
Very
play on.
nice.
And so I, learned how to do that, and I was immediately interested in like composing my own songs, and stuff like that. So I was like always making music. I play a bunch of instruments that I learned throughout my life. Um, and then I got really into hip hop as like a music consumer when I was like in middle school, which was when my dad, who like I've always had a tremendous music bond with my dad. Like most of my biggest influences, like from childhood stuff, were introduced to me by him, and he's the one who introduced me to the Beastie Boys and Rage Against the Machine and Eminem and Tupac and Biggie and like all this stuff. And
Sounds like your
anytime we
dad and
were
I might have grown up around the same time. My
uh,
first like tape I owned myself was Beastie Boys License to Ill, and it was when it came out. So
well, it's funny talking about my development. The first CD that I ever bought for myself with my own money was System of a Down.
mine was totally crossed out by Criss Cross.
I love that.
System of a
Um,
Down. Yeah,
but
wow.
yeah, so it's like, so I started getting introduced to that, and so I still kept a large love of all types of music, which I still do to this day. Um, but as I got older, and kind of like being around different communities and stuff, and like the types of people I was around, like hip hop just rose and rose and rose and
Yeah.
more importance in my life from that point on. And so by the time I was in college, most of the music that I was making at that time, like I said, I've always been making music. I wasn't doing anything with it. I was just making it.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to college, most of the music I was making was rap at that point, and doing a lot of stuff like doing like laying down something on my like cello and sampling that and making like a little quick beat off of it, doing some drums, and then just rapping just those two instruments in my
Yeah.
voice, and
When you actually know how to play the instruments, it doesn't take like all the bullshit of having to like try to make something sound good. So
yeah, because let me
it's a
tell
big
you,
advantage. Knowing what you're
I
doing is
do
a big
not.
advantage.
Yeah, and I'm not like a producer by any stretch of the imagination. I do make some of my beats from songs I put out. I've made, but for the most part, that's not my forte. And like that to me is exponentially harder than like playing
Yeah.
the cello.
But I
Um,
do think that for all the rappers I know, the ones who at least can make a beat, I do think they have an advantage. I think that they're forced to like at least they empathize then with what it takes to make a beat. Because I
yeah,
think there are some rappers who get very greedy over it, who think it's very easy, but and they don't understand how to do it. And I think you just have so much more control, both creatively and probably artistically, and maybe from a business sense, if you are able to, if you're gonna rap, you at least know how to do
for
it.
sure. Like I definitely set out with the goal of doing everything 100% myself, like making the beats, recording it myself, mixing and mastering myself, putting it out. And then I just realized that like sometimes like there are people who are experts at certain things for a reason,
Yeah.
And so I've made lots of connections to do that. But I
I have
will
a
say
I work well with one producer where I'll just do a half-ass version. I send it to him, and he does the full-ass version, and I'm like, oh, that's an okay way to work. So
I
you
love
sorry,
that.
sorry I
Yeah.
interrupted. You were saying,
No, you're good. I was gonna say though about your point about like an artist who knows how to make a beat, kind of having the advantage. The biggest advantage for me personally, once like I made that connection of like doing the two jobs together, um, is like all the little tiny nuanced things in a song that like when you do like one general listen, you maybe don't hear that tiny little thing in the background, but if it was not there, the song would not sound the same.
right?
And for me personally, like when it comes to writing, one huge thing that like is for me the most fun part about writing is finding like fun and interesting cadences and like switching up cadences like really often and like trying to just like find new and interesting ways to like make the words flow
Mhm.
is like my absolute favorite thing about writing. And when that little tiny weird
Yeah,
scratch that's in the background that no one else can hear, you can write to that cool little background thing. And then it just brings that out in the music and it makes your lyrics and the music hit together so much more than just vocals pasted on top of a beat.
Right.
you know? And
Exactly.
like that to me is like pinnacle music making, like
Right.
getting like all those little things like perfectly ingrained together where there's all these layers of one impacting the other. I just, that's like peak music for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny you talk about it that way. I remember as a kid, they would talk about, I mean, people who didn't like rap, but I came from a pretty small town, so a lot of them didn't like rap. They were like, they're just talking over someone else's beat. I'm like, you have no idea how hard this is. You have no idea how
Yeah.
much thought goes into it, and like even looking back now at people like Cool G Rap and Big Daddy Kane from that area, they were really technically amazing, and
Yeah.
it's crazy that they weren't. I mean, they were big, but they weren't as big as they could have been. You know?
Yeah, because we think about looking back on classic hip hop, right? And a lot of that stuff people think of like as almost like rudimentary. Like when we think
Right.
about the like fast rapping and like all this
Yeah.
different stuff that people do today and like all the, heavy emphasis on like metaphors and like analogies and all that kind of stuff. When back then it was very like it comes across, if you don't really like listen to it, it comes across as very like, you know, I
Right.
gotta say it was a good day. Like it was
Right.
just
Right.
very,
Yeah. It's funny
but
because
there's like
even in the
so
even
much more to it than that.
yeah. Even in the early 90s, I remember like Run DMC was considered corny. And Will Smith was already corny.
Oh yeah.
But then the thing that I think happened is that over time they came back because they were, even though they weren't the best rappers, they were the best MCs. And Will Smith
Yes.
was a really good MC, and Run DMC was about as good as MCs get. So
Yeah.
then it was like, remember when MCing was important? Remember when the energy you brought was important? And that to me is something that you is lost in a lot of hip hop, obviously, but it's one of the best reasons to go back and listen to the old stuff because the energy
Yeah,
is
no,
fantastic.
100%. There's just so many like little things that like just giving it a real listen, like you can really tell like
Yeah.
there's a lot of passion and a lot of care and a lot of skill, throughout all the eras. Like even
It's
if
like
you see music today that people want to like talk like people always want to talk down on mumble rapping, people always want to talk down on trap. But if you really sit there and listen, like sometimes these people are like talking about the deepest stuff, and
right.
everyone's like, "Oh, all I want to talk about is like drugs and guns," and they're just mumble rapping, and this person's over here talking about like wanting to kill themselves. Like
Right.
it's like real deep stuff like through all eras, and people just
It's funny you bring up that type of music too, because I for a long time I put on stuff like that and try to get into it. And I struggled with it. But then like I started watching videos online of like maybe shows and stuff or documentaries where they talked about it. And when you see it in the context, when you see like not only just the artist, but the fans with the artist, engaging with the artist, it all makes much more sense. Because it's not,
yeah.
it's like you can hear the song, but without engaging in some way with the collective energy, it is a little harder to get, you know.
No, I can 100% agree with you, and had an extremely similar experience that changed my mind about it because I wasn't always a big fan. I would say it's still not like the type of music that I seek out to listen to regularly, but I used to like be like, I understand that people like it, but it's not for me. But then I saw Trippie Redd live at a festival, who I had heard his music before and genuinely was not interested. I was
Right.
just like, cool.
I tried to look him up a few
So,
times and I've struggled to get into it. So I'm
but
looking forward to hearing
man,
your
I
experience.
saw him live, and the amount of like passion that he put into the performance and behind the words he was saying, like really, really solidified in my head, like, okay, I need to like give a deeper listen to this than like the standout lines that everyone knows, or just the little things that pop out to me, or just the style of music. Like, because I mean, I was sitting here and I'm being touched. I'm not touched by this. I'm like, oh my god, I'm emotional listening to this. So like, there's no reason why I wouldn't enjoy this in my day to day life as well.
Right.
And it's just kind of like taking that time to just see that this is a different style of music. So let me listen to a few different parts of it. Let me focus on the music. Let me focus on the lyrics. Let me focus on the styling of the voice. Let me, focus on different aspects of it. And I guarantee in really any genre, you're going to find
Right.
something you like.
For me, it was
know?
the documentary they made about Lil Peep, who was an artist.
Mhm.
When I watched that documentary, I was like, oh, okay. this it all in that I got it finally. I got how the
Yeah.
music works and like and I was like, okay, all right, it's cool. Like I wouldn't I'm not gonna listen to it all the time, but I'm like, because part of it for me is that if there's popular music that I don't get at all, I feel like that means there's segments of the population who I don't get at all. And so
Mm.
that's what I
That's a
sort
good
of
look.
it's like sometimes like if I want to be able to relate to these people who identify with this music, the music it helps me to identify with them better. And I don't want to just if there's that many people who are into it, I don't want to discount whatever feeling it is behind it, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a really great way to look at it, honestly. I
This is
feel
for
like
somebody who never leaves the house, so I don't know if I'm ever actually gonna meet these people, but ideally speaking.
well, and that's the thing is like for me, like a live event is one of my favorite things in the world to be at. Like
Yeah.
I mean in any kind of live event, like the only sport that I like habitually follow is basketball. But I'll go to a football game, I'll go to a soccer game, I'll go because the live, like the energy of
Yeah.
people who care about this thing is so infectious. And that's how it is with music too. Like one of my homegirls was celebrating her birthday a few months ago and wanted to go to this honky tonk country ass bar, which is just so not my scene. But I was like obviously gonna go because it was her birthday. And we're there and everyone's two stepping and dancing around. And I was like, look at this energy. You know, like, and probably most people that are here, I would never fuck with on a normal day, but I
Right.
appreciate their energy right now, you know? And so like talking about kind of like experiencing the music and experiencing the community, going to like live shows, like that does that for me, you know, like even going to like really like hardcore screamo rock, which like I don't necessarily get into that much, but going and like seeing everyone around me and how invested they are, and like I get it. Like I get that feeling. I'm getting it right now, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
What's best what are the best some of the best shows you've ever been to? Anything
oh
hop out at you? How about this? This is an easier one way to think about that. What's the first concert you ever went to?
the first concert I ever went to was Reliant K, which if you're not familiar is
Sounds familiar, but I don't
It's a Christian punk rock alternative band
all right.
from the
The
early
jars of clay open?
2000s. Yeah, but like way cheesier. um and yeah, at South Padre Island for church camp.
Cool.
They got Reliant K, which is kind of wild because they were actually a pretty large band at the
How was
time.
the show?
Great, incredible, yeah. You know, but yeah, that
If
was
you're a
my
good
first.
performer, it's like being a performer itself is the skill, and it's like if you're a good performer, even if people are into like that what you do on a regular day, you can bring them in. You know,
Yeah, for sure,
I
for
guess a
sure.
lot of religion is probably built that way, actually. But
No, for sure. And I mean, like, and I was a fan of Reliant K at the time, so it was very
oh,
exciting
that's
for
awesome.
me, like that they were. It wasn't like I just happened to see them. Like I was hyped, and it was a great show, you know.
Sweet,
So,
that's awesome.
and then okay, favorite. I'll say I I always struggle with favorite type answers, so
Yeah,
I try to just usually go with whatever the first thing that popped in
yeah.
my head
Whatever,
was,
whatever's
because
like top of
obviously it's
mind. Yeah,
important to me. Which not to like obviously this is an episode where we're talking about Tyler, but I still feel a little self-conscious about fangirling. But
that's
I will
fine.
say
It's fine. He'll never watch
one
this.
of
Don't worry.
the one of the best performances was Tyler at the last Camp Flognaw, which was when Igor came out.
Oh, I just listened to that for the
And
first time the other day. That
oh my
whew,
god, the and I mean the Tyler is an unbelievable performer to begin with. And
yeah,
I mean, like I said, I just talked about the first performance, which was just like a rage rap mosh type, like in a little venue type thing. But over the years, I mean, he orchestrates his performances. There is stage design, there's lighting, there's costume changes, there's wigs, there's like very orchestrated things. He puts a lot of work into his performances, and I've seen that progression over time. And I feel like Igor, that performance at Camp Flognaw was like, I'm not gonna say like a pinnacle or a peak because I genuinely believe he's gonna even do better in the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
But like at the time, it was like an absolute peak for me for like what an orchestrated performance can look like, because that's like a big dream for me, is being able to do a performance like that where like there
Right.
maybe we having dancers on stage to do something, or like have some sort of stage design and something that's like the whole thing from beginning to end is an experience rather than, and here's my next song,
Yep.
and here's my next song, and here's my next song, and that's Beedo and I, like, which I love
Right.
those too. But like that to me is like a big dream, is getting to that really, really like worked on performance that's like a play almost, really.
Right.
And that's how that one was. Like from beginning to end, every single little tiny detail was like watching a movie, but I was watching it live in front of my face with all my favorite music, with my favorite artists.
Yeah.
Like it was just, and I was probably 10, 15 people deep, like, from the stage. So I mean, I was like up close and personal watching it. It was just amazing for me.
It's like when you go to a show like that, you know where the ticket price went, which is
Oh yeah.
nice. And it's like you
Yes.
realize that a lot of like it's him, but he spent a lot of he could have just got you in there to see him perform, but he spent a lot of money to hire other people, other artists to work on this. So he
Yeah.
essentially becomes a traveling community of this thing. I had a friend of a family member who had done that sort of stage work for Kanye and Daft
Mhm.
Punk in like maybe 20 years back. And he told me the stories about just like how basically you were just this traveling show from town to town of all these like amazing artists doing like
That's
these
so
things that had never
great.
been done before with maniacs in charge.
Oh,
Like and he was like, we're in
it sounds
Australia
like a
riding
dream.
motorcycles behind the tour bus. And I was just like, wow, man, like this is and he was a young kid at the time, it was just that's a great way to spend your 20s.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I
I did
mean,
it wrong. I
yeah,
did it wrong.
I know.
I did my 20s wrong.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of us did. Um, so you seem like you've been playing a lot of shows. Did you just do a little tour?
I did just get off tour. Yes.
What happened on tour? How'd that go?
It was amazing. I was opening for Landon Q on his tour. I did San Antonio, LA, and Phoenix with him. And it was awesome. I mean, it was I've had opportunities to open for artists much larger than me before, but never really something that I felt like that artist's audience probably isn't going to like my music,
Right.
like, and I felt like with Landon Cube, like I really felt like, because he's very like hip hop adjacent, I would say. Like he does a lot of rock and he does a lot of pop and he does a lot of singing. He has some like kind of country type like guitar and some songs. He does straight up hip hop. And so I felt like his audience would probably really like my kind of like a little bit of a different sound for like a
Hmm.
normal rap show.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I was right. His audience was amazing in all three cities that I went to. And I met a lot of really incredible people, and then all the other artists that were also performing. The talent was just at such a high caliber. It was really, really incredible experience. And I road tripped the whole thing myself. So I like left from San Antonio. I went to Big Bend for a few days. I went to Tucson, and then I went to Vegas to link up with some music friends that I have there. Shout out to Not Speak Easy, based out of Vegas.
Check them out.
And yeah, so I went and met up with them, and we, met in the studio and hung out. And then I went down to LA, did that show. Went down to San Diego to visit some friends. Cut over to Phoenix, did my show there. Back home, it was just incredible experience with like a bunch of really, really incredible artists, like just
That's
all
awesome.
around me the whole time.
Do you plan to go to on tour again soon?
I would love if honestly my entire life was just driving city to city and performing. That would be like I swear the whole trip I was like, I could convince my cat to like move into the car with me and we could just go on the road all the time.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so I plan on trying to for 2024 put together a tour of my own where I'm booking the shows and the venues in these different cities, because I do perform out of Texas pretty often, like pretty regularly. Feel very fortunate that I've been able to do that. And so I've just built these really cool communities in all of these different cities. And I'm very invested and very ingrained in my San Antonio music community. But I want to build these connections with these other communities as well. And so I do have plans for like putting together more of these like short run tours for sure and stopping in some of those cities. But for 2024, I'm hoping that I can pull it off to put together a real big tour where I'm curating the shows in each of the city and everything. So
Yeah, I mean that's great too. Anything you can do to take on more control of yourself. I mean, I just talked about how great it was that Tyler was paying all these artists, but like when you're starting out, it's like he's like, how do I do the opposite of that, and how do I do everything myself? And then
yeah,
then there's no one like BSing you. It's I don't know. It's better to handle your own business, I think.
yeah, and it's a tough balancing act because I am very much the type of person that just wants to do everything alone.
Yeah,
Like I've always been that way. My
I can relate. Yeah,
my family can attest to that. They make fun of me for it constantly for just always being like very like solo minded.
you don't end up
And
with this many action figures if you're not somebody who does spend a lot of time alone. If you don't start out spending a ton of time alone, you end up that way. This was the wall that was a test for me whenever I brought a new person I was dating to my house. Like, we'll see how they react to this, and then I'll know how it goes.
yeah,
And
it's a
it
good
was it
gauge.
actually worked. It was ended up being true. I didn't make any decisions on the spot about it, but I made note of it later. Went in their file.
I have had people come into my home and ask me about Vote Igor. They'd be like, Igor, like from what is that from? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
damn.
I made this
Oh,
Vote for Doom art that I just reposted the other day. That was a mashup of MF Doom and the Shepherd Fairy poster from a while
ooh, I
ago.
didn't see that one. I saw the Wu Tang one that
Oh
you
yeah, the Smash
really
Bros.
that
Yeah.
Smash Bros. One.
Um
Speaking of your art,
yeah.
this is your
Oh,
art here.
where'd that come from?
Um, Concept had a few of your prints.
Oh, I gave him some. Yes.
Yeah,
I can't believe I
and
didn't notice it.
me and a good friend of mine, around that time, like we were working on some projects with Concept, and so we were over there a lot, and I had commented on loving this piece, and so he gifted it to me.
You want to know the story behind that piece?
Yes, please.
I was in Amsterdam. This was I'm not gonna say when, but it was I was there. My girlfriend at the time, or my fiance at the time, was she was she was Czech and she was visiting family in Czech Republic for a few weeks. And I'm like, I don't speak the language at all. So I'm gonna go around myself a little bit, and then I'll meet up with you for Christmas in the Czech
Mhm.
Republic. And so I went to Amsterdam by myself for like 4 days. I'd never been there before, and I didn't know that mushrooms were legal and readily available there. But I learned fast.
Learned real quick.
Right. And so I went to the I went to the Van Gogh Museum tripping, and then there was a Banksy and Warhol museum there. I came dangerously close to buying a Banksy,
Oh my
which
god.
it's I whatever.
Thankfully, my bank account would never allow me to do
I was worried
that.
about like customs and stuff, but it did not happen. So no one like breaking my house thinking there's a Banksy here. There's not. And and so there's a blacklight museum that was in. I'll eventually get to the point. That was in Amsterdam. That was the only blacklight museum in the world, I guess. And so on my way, I'll tell you that story. But on the way there, I walked by a playground, and that was a photograph that I took of just some girls playing on a playground in Amsterdam. And I actually the other day that popped up my phone and it tracked the geolocation, so it showed me exactly where that was shot. So
Oh, that's so cool. I love doing that. I love going back and finding that stuff. But yeah, no, I love it so much.
I
I
appreciate that. Oh, but the
okay.
Blacklight Museum. So I go in there, and this is a funny story. I go in there, and it's a really tiny place, and it's full of like geodes and crystals and all that stuff. And as soon as I look, there's a woman in there who's got these three kids that look like they're probably like like in high school or a little bit out of high school, and they didn't look. One of them was there were two young women who I think were Hispanic, and the guy was black. And as soon as I walk in, he looks at me, and immediately I'm like tripping my brains, and I'm like, oh, I could tell the vibe exactly. He basically made it look like you're in for something. Wait till you see what this lady is like. And this lady gives us this tour of and like she starts talking up the Blacklight Museum, which is in the basement, and how all these things like move around, and it's amazing. We see photographs of them in front of the door. The door looks like something like you're going to go down to like a wizard's den or something. It looks amazing.
Love that.
And I'm peeking at my trip. And so then and she's like walking around and she's still not like letting us in the museum or anything. It's like 2 days before Christmas, and she's showing us these posters. She's like, "Oh, there's posters downstairs that belong to Jimi Hendrix. They're given to us by they're blacklight posters. They're given to us by his brother." And she told us a story about how difficult it was to get them and show them in the Hendrix estate and all this stuff. And then she's pointing to this geode, and she's like, "This comes from New Jersey," and she's talking about it like it's a super exotic place. It's across the world, and they don't know what New Jersey's actually
That's
like.
hilarious.
And so I'm tripping, and like I'm looking at these kids and they're looking at me. I'm like probably like 15, 20 years older than them. And we're both sharing this bizarre experience, despite the fact that none of us know who we are or where we're at, and who knows what they were on. And then she starts walking us by the door where we're gonna go down, and she goes, "But unfortunately, the museum is closed." And it won't be open until next year because it actually takes two people to run it, and my daughter helps me run it, and she decided to go home for Christmas like a day earlier or something. And I was like,
Led with that information.
I know, it was unbelievable. It's
Such a random experience that like
yeah.
you could probably never recreate that experience.
No,
Like
and I
that,
like,
that
but I will say that I had about 6 or 7 similar experiences over those few stays.
are you sure? Are you sure you had those experiences?
I have one that I'll tell on another day, but like it was the weirdest experience of my life, and I don't know. I
We
have to
all
actually
love
go
those
back. I
stories,
had to
though.
write it down after it happened because I was like I might forget the details, and now I want to go back and actually read it before I tell it. But it was one of the most bizarre. I
Every
basically lived like a month in those 4 days.
Yeah, no, for sure. Every time I've ever written down some profound realization that I've had in the middle of some, deep thing. And then later when I go to read it to recount and be like, oh, I'm so glad I wrote this down so I can remember, it's usually nonsense.
Yeah.
Like my absolute favorite one, it's just written on an envelope for an overdue bill. This is years and years and years ago, but it was like a very overdue bill that was actually causing me a lot of stress. And I had the envelope on my counter on my table or whatever. And in that moment that I had to write down this incredible realization I was having. I grabbed like a orange Sharpie or like a highlighter that was nearby and wrote, "Art is completely different now." And that was my grand profound realization. The next day I saw the envelope on the table and I was like, oh my God, I forgot I wrote down like this incredible thing. Like I had to like let me look at it, and I saw
Yeah.
that and I was just like,
You know
really?
what's funny though? If you put that in a nice glass frame, it becomes art. It's
It
like
will be soon.
right. I mean, that's like it literally now it's an existential whatever, and it then takes on the value of art again. You know?
You want to know the funniest part is that I do remember what made me have that realization that made it dawn on me that art is so different.
Yeah.
I was watching I was watching the music video for Kodak Black's ZZ,
I
which is like, please watch it after. It
yeah.
is unbelievably chaotic. It's like it looks like something that I made in my first video editing class. Like I just learned how to like put a picture on the screen and make it move around and then fly off the screen. That's like the vibe of it, but it is very professionally made. Like it doesn't look like it's poor quality, but that's the vibe of it, is like
Yeah.
just this very chaotic, like
Oh,
just and
this. Yeah, I'm filling it up right now.
yeah. And that I was watching it and I'm not like
Oh
um
wow. Yeah. This. Yeah.
you see what I mean? I was watching that and I was like, art is completely different these days. Like this is art. This is
Yeah.
art. And it's so different from the art I grew up with. Like
Yeah. I know. It's like anything goes now. I mean, it's.
I love that.
Right.
Like I realized in the last few years, and it's something that I think the realization was something I was kind of telling myself, but it's impacted the way I see other things, is like um whether something like the intention's important. Like the art
Yes.
that I create, I have intention behind it. Every word I write, I have intention. I have a reason for it, and there's a reason that I thought that these words went well together with this beat, and that it should be performed this way. And like, like there was intention behind it, and I feel like, despite the things we see in the world every day, I feel like as a society, we are moving towards being so much more accepting of like someone saying, "This is my art."
Right.
You know, like I made this and it might not look like anything you've ever made before, and it might seem nonsensical to you. And maybe it is nonsensical. Maybe that's the point I
Right.
gave to it, but
But
that
there
was
was
still my
intent and
intention,
effort and thought and
you know.
passion.
And I love that, and it's been something that's helped me personally, like just putting music out, because even the times where I'm like, this probably isn't good, or you know, like it's like, okay, well, I finished the song and I thought it was good. I wrote it, I edited it, I did all
Right.
this stuff. Obviously, this is what I wanted to create with this. And if someone else doesn't like it, then someone else doesn't like it. But
Right.
you know, like this is what I wanted to create, and it's helped me a lot, like as an artist. But also, it's helped me like the way I view other people, view other people's art and stuff. That I can see, you know, that might be like the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, but like you had a reason for it,
Right.
you
And
know?
I also appreciate any time an artist, especially one that probably tries to have a harder edge or has a kind of that they show a sense of humor. Like
Mhm.
it's so humanizing. And it's like obviously
Yes.
this is, this video is nuts. It's I love it though.
Yeah,
It's wild.
I know, same.
It takes risks. And that's what's, it's I always get frustrated, and this happened a lot in my hip hop scene back in when I used to play a lot of shows like the Middle East and all these places. I mean, in Cambridge,
Oh, I was
not like
like,
Saudi Arabia. It was a
that's
venue here. No,
cool.
yeah, I'm getting that Beyonce blood money from Saudi Arabia. Maybe I'll cut that part out. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of like, oh, hip hop sucks now. We're taking it back to 92. We're taking it back to this. And I'm like, look, just be what is now. Like this idea of like the older was always better. It's like there's always a warm place in your heart for what's old and what's classic and the feeling it gave you, and some of it stands up better than other. But like it's okay to just be in the moment because that's where yourself is, and you're supposed to be being
Yeah,
yourself, you know?
exactly. You know, and I
My
just,
goal is always to be like if I try to have good taste in music and I try to make music that I like to listen to. So hopefully those two merge at some point,
right? Like
So
people like this music, and I'm
right,
making music that I like and I like it. So there's got to be
some
someone
sort of transitive
besides
property,
me that
right?
is the like the middle of the Venn diagram. There's got to be more than me in here.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way. Which is funny because I don't feel like my music necessarily is like, and anyone can feel free to correct me. No one's ever said anything like this to me, so and I don't feel this way, so I'm assuming it's the case. But I don't feel like my music's very like reminiscent of any individual artists, you know? Like
yeah.
I have my
I
inspirations, like
agree.
Tyler, and Mac Miller is a huge inspiration to
Oh
me.
God, I love Mac Miller.
So like you know,
I
like
just read
there's
this so dope book that came out about him that I would highly recommend to anybody.
oh, I've been wanting to get it.
It's great. I just
Yes,
finished it.
okay.
It's
I would
awesome.
definitely get that. But yeah, you know, and so it's like I feel like I'm not necessarily like reminiscent of any particular artist. So I struggle with the idea of, you know, oh well, you know, I had good taste in either, just like what you just said. Because it's like, okay, yeah, just because people like Mac Miller doesn't mean they're gonna like me. Because
Right.
I don't sound like Mac Miller, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's gotta be more than just me in that diagram of people like Mac Miller and like my music. And like Tyler the Creator and like my
Right.
music,
Right.
you know?
I was so delighted when I got to the point with my plays on Spotify where they allowed you to do Soma 79 radio. And I'm like, all right, what do you guys think that I'm like? And I saw some
Cool,
of the
what you
artists.
get?
It was like, well, I've done a couple songs with Copyright, who's been around for a while. So he brought in some of his music. I think it brought in Elza, who I do have a song with, but it hasn't been released yet. So I'm like, I don't know how Spotify might have known about that. But like I was like, oh, I like all these artists. I'm like that it's like it was oddly validating in a weird way.
Yeah. No, 100%. I did. So I haven't gotten to that point yet. There's no Beedo radio yet. One day,
Due
one day.
time.
But I will say, through DistroKid, when you do like a pre-save link, for like an upcoming song or whatever, when people sign up for it, if you go look at the stats, there's a section that says like, oh, the people that pre-saved your song, these are their top artists.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
And
Good tip.
it was like I was blown away. I was like, man, like these are people that listen to like these artists, but they're also like going out of their way to fork up their email to like pre-save a
Yeah.
song that I'm putting out, you know? And lots of that I'm sure has to do with my personal relationships, you know? But like lots of like, you know, like lots out of a whole thing, maybe there's a few of them that are people I personally know. There's lots of people who are just fans, and they're also fans of Chance, and they're also fans of like Foo Fighters, and they're also fans. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that we have these sort of abilities to get this information now. It's
Yeah.
as much as I hate when someone's collecting my data, like when I'm like digging through it, I'm like, I guess there's two sides to this coin.
That is my 100% perspective, especially having worked in marketing. So I'm sure you
Yeah,
understand. Is like, do I hate that every website I visit, everything I do is collecting cookies on me and selling it to all these other companies? Yes. But
right.
when I get an Instagram ad for the exact thing that
I
I
know.
wanted, am I upset? No. I'm actually really happy that a marketer used data to
Right.
find me so I
Somebody
could buy that
hustles. Yeah.
thing.
I do hate though when I already bought the thing and then it shows it to me on sale after. Like that, I hate that.
Look, and here's the thing is there's a very, this isn't a marketing podcast, but there's a very simple way for marketers to not target people after they've already bought it, and people just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It annoys me.
The most annoying thing that happened to me on a recent purchase, and it was actually something too where I saw it where they showed me an ad for it on sale, and they're still showing me an ad on sale now to this day, is that they gave me free shipping, but they charged me for handling. And I was like, I feel like I should be able to take you to court for that.
Literally, like I don't think I really thought that any systems actually could even separate that. I just
they
assumed it
they
was
found
always
a
going
way.
to be
It's like
found a way.
they got my $2. And I'm like, wow, what you clever bastards. I don't know whether to feel insulted or just be like, nice work, boys. Nice work.
Maybe both. You can feel both.
Yeah, I guess,
Those
yeah.
are
It's
valid.
yeah, I can have conflicting emotions.
Yeah.
Um, so what are your ambitions for your art? Do you like you said you'd like to be on tour pretty much all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love performing, even not being on tour. I perform very regularly. And not to say that I just do every show available to me or anything,
Yeah, yeah.
But I really love performing so much. It's just I've talked with multiple people about this over time, but like the moment that I'm on stage, everything else going on in my brain shuts down. Like all the anxiety, all
Yeah.
the like, like even though I talk about pretty dark stuff in my music sometimes, which is it's just my way of kind of working through it and getting
Yeah,
it out.
purging
But
and
even sitting there performing a song that is really dark in nature and is about some stuff that I'm really dealing with and I'm struggling with, when I'm performing it's just like nothing else matters, and it feels so good. So performances are definitely like my number one like priority for most things, and then obviously other things that are also huge priorities, but the number one slot definitely goes to performing. So I would love to eventually get to the point that I could do either like have my own festival, whether that's just like a week, a one time a year festival, or like a period of time kind of thing, like a Warp Tour type thing, or like a Rolling Loud type thing. But I would love to have my own festival one day, and then otherwise I would love to like the way that Tyler does his album releases and his tours is obviously correlating them, which lots of artists do, but he really like that stage design, that performance. It's not just going on tour because he dropped an album. It's I put so much unbelievable work into every little tiny detail about this album, and that same amount of work is going into this tour. So the places we go to, the songs that we choose to perform, the stage design, everything is so orchestrated around this experience of experiencing the music,
yeah.
and so like that to me, like if that could just be what I'm doing all the time, it would just be like uh, I would be living an absolute dream at that
I think it's
point.
cool too because he's an artist who understands that every time you perform, you have to give them a reason to come back.
Yeah.
And that's important. They have to give it's like the artists know if they come back, they're going to see something special and it'll be something different than the last time. And that can't be said
Yeah.
about a lot of acts.
Yeah, and I mean I try to do that even on the local scale. You know, like the majority of the shows I do right now, I get 3 to 5 songs, depending on the time and which songs I choose to do. And I do have a pretty standard set of songs that most people know if they've seen me perform. But I try to change up the set list, but I also try to change up my performance of it. You
Yeah,
know, like there
important
are
too.
those ideal ways that even when I was writing it, I was like, "Ooh, this would be a great moment for me to do whatever with the audience." But I very much perform off the energy like of the people as well. You know, I've performed to 3 people
Yeah.
and I've performed to over 100 people,
Yeah.
you know, and those 3 people got the exact same level of passion and energy and performance from me that the over 100 people all got, because that's just how important performing is to me. So I really try to make it so that even the people that like every single time I have a show, they come out to support me because they live locally and they want to support me. I'm hoping that every single time they're hearing me do something different or seeing me do
Right.
something different, that like then when the next time I post a flyer, they're not like, I just saw her last weekend. They're like, I just saw her last weekend, but like, what if she does
Right.
something else? You know,
Right.
like,
That
because I
you
perform
made
a lot of
you
unreleased
made a
stuff.
space that they enjoyed being inside,
Trying
essentially.
to.
And it's like, yeah, and it's like, so it's like, give them a reason to come back and be inside that space again, in
Yeah,
some way,
yeah,
shape,
for
or
sure.
form.
And I also perform a lot of unreleased stuff. Like usually my shows are like half unreleased and then half stuff that's actually out. So and some of those songs I never plan on releasing. So you're literally only ever going to hear them if you come to the show. And then that's an experience that we got to have. Me and you, the audience member, got to have this cool moment with this song that like isn't that we don't get to have another way, like you just listening to my music on Spotify.
Is there a reason why you would hold back from releasing certain songs?
Um some of them I feel like sometimes I write songs to be performed. Like everything about them, from like the
I
enunciation
get what you're
to the
saying. Yeah.
energy and everything, is like I wrote this to be a live song and it
Right.
just would not translate the same way.
Yes.
And
That's
so
smart.
that's a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like something that just started as like a freestyle kind of thing, but I thought it was really strong, so I wanted to perform it. And so I do have a few songs that I plan on at least doing like freestyle videos of them
Yeah.
and putting them on like doing like a music video for them and stuff, but not necessarily like releasing the track like on streaming services and stuff, just because um it's just a different level of effort and a different type of intent when I'm
Right.
writing lyrics.
You know
So
what it's kind of like? That song, Let Me Clear My Throat?
say it again.
DJ Cool's Let Me Clear My Throat. No, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah.
It's like that song's recorded in front of a crowd. If that song was recorded in a studio, like it's I don't know what it is. It's who let the dogs out of the
Totally
best.
different.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
and
so there's some things where you need the room is part of the ingredient of the song to some degree.
yeah, I was literally just telling my friend yesterday, maybe even earlier today, but about like I feel like I do love the process of like working with someone and recording a song, and doing all the editing. I do love, like, I nerd out over that aspect of
Yeah.
it. But if I could never record another song ever again and only ever do live cuts, like in this dream world, not a dream world, in my future,
Yes.
when
You do
I'm
it.
living, when I'm traveling and I'm doing shows all the time, and like that's what my career is being on the road and performing. I would love to just only do just live cuts of everything. Like the first, like when an album comes out, it's because I booked a show and I performed the entire album front to back live, and that was recorded for like an intimate show, and that's the album. That's what comes out,
That's a
rather
great
than
idea.
studio versions. Just because I don't know. No matter how much I try to put all the passion of a live performance into the recorded version, it's just always going to be different.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but
And
yeah,
especially
that
too,
would
if you
be
feel mostly at home on stage, like
yeah,
that's
I do.
where it seems like your art is drawing you to,
Yeah,
so it
no,
makes sense that you
100%.
went from there.
So yeah, dream.
Yeah. It is funny though how much there are those artists that the live experience is, Rancid's one of my favorite bands to see live, though I almost will never listen to them like not live because it's just not the same. It's in some are I think Cottonmouth Kings was big like that for me. I used to go to every Cottonmouth King show now, and I try to put a
That's
CD on. I'm
fair.
like, okay, all right, this is probably, I don't know. Those are
Yeah,
great.
no, I just, and I personally love performing, and then I think I put on a good show. I've gotten feedback that I put on a good show, so I would hope that I would be one of those artists that, not to be like, her recorded shit's okay, but she's great live. Like the recorded shit's great too. But
Yeah.
like, but I would hope that people would just crave my live performance more than just a stream.
Well, I'm seeing you
Like
in my stories all the time, and not just from you. Like other people in the area are posting you and talking about how great you are. So I mean, you're making an impression.
that's good.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, love it. Love
that's
it so much.
awesome.
Music is like, another big revelation that I had to write down and share with someone at one point was that music's everything to me. Which, like, that's not as goofy as a revelation. But it was something that's like, even though it has been part of my life for my entire life, and it's been such a humongous influence on me and everything, it took a switch in my brain to be like, no, like, this is everything. Like,
Yeah,
music is where I feel most myself and most at home and most just like calm in my brain that just never stops. It's
yeah,
like music just impacts me on such a grand scale like nothing else ever has. Not love, not pain, not money, not nothing. Like music's it for me.
yeah.
So
To that point, I remember back in the day when I was younger and I'd maybe in college, and I get into someone's car and I look at their CD wallet, and it was like the soundtrack to like four things and like the same Eagles greatest hits that everybody has. I'm like, ooh, you and I aren't we're not cut from the same cloth at all. They're like,
yes.
what? I like the Shrek soundtrack. What? It's like Scream 2 soundtrack is where
Come
the
on, you're
pinnacle
only
of
listening
music.
it for All Star. All right, be honest. You're not listening to the
Get
whole
that
Shrek
smashed out.
soundtrack.
No, I don't know. I don't know if like Eddie Murphy as Donkey sings a song, but if he does, I'd be stick around for that.
True.
I do have a 12-inch of Eddie Murphy saying "My Girl Likes to Party All the Time," which is it really happens. But
Yeah, honestly, iconic moment in music
yeah,
history.
it's funny. So people's music taste does kind of tell me a lot about them. Sometimes it's weird. I think it's in some ways unfair, like unfair to judge, but in other ways, it's like totally fair to judge. And then there's some people. I have I don't know why this popped in my head, but one of the weirdest music memories I have in my life is I was at the gym once, very early in the morning, and it was just me and this one other guy next to me. And for some reason, he got a machine right next to me. And I had my headphones on, listening to either a podcast or music. And over the sounds of him and I both working out on our machines, I could still clearly hear through his headphones he was listening to Crocodile Rock by Elton John.
What?
I was like, how loud is this? Yeah.
It's just like going on.
And I think about that and laugh at it like once a month.
That is absolutely, yo, look, I'm never gonna judge anyone's like pump up jam,
Right.
but like I don't think I'll ever meet anyone who has that as it.
Yeah. That
I don't
actually
think I'll
reminds
ever
me,
meet
I when I saw Aquaman in the theater, it was a totally empty theater, and it got really quiet at one point because there wasn't a lot of sound going on. And all I could hear was "We Will Rock You" from Bohemian Rhapsody coming from the theater next door.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna go
They need
see
to do
that
some better
movie.
soundproofing on that theater.
I know.
That's
But
funny.
yeah. So anything else you want to cover here? Any more Tyler talk you got? Or did you I think you might have inferred to that you might have had some run-ins with him again down the road or meeting him.
have. I have met him a number of times.
Any other good
Um,
stories?
Nothing like that would probably really like they're funny stories, I would think, because I saw him, from before they were even famous yet, all the way till now. Like which when he's incredibly
Yeah.
famous. And so it's been funny as a fan, as a very big fan, and especially as someone who met him the first time I ever saw him or even heard of him. So there, I had like lots of other experiences like that at like small intimate shows where like he would interact with the crowd a lot and then like would interact with people after the show. So I'd had a handful of experiences with him like that. And then, he reached a certain point where he's doing very big stage shows where there's no chance for you to see him.
Right.
And so a long amount of time went between the last time I had interacted with him face to face in person and when I was in LA in 2018 for Camp Flognaw. And I went to the golf flagship store while I was there because
Yeah.
and
That's his
so
clothing brand, right?
yes, yeah. And so I went there and I was walking out of the dressing room from trying on a sweater and walking to the cashier, and I had to walk past the like hallway from the like warehouse, like a storeroom. And so I walk around the corner as he's walking from the back, and we like literally ran into each other, and I like dropped my stuff.
God.
And
that's like something out of a sitcom.
We literally like ran into each other. I dropped all my stuff. I looked up, and I was like really starstruck, which I was like a little taken aback by because I've met him. Like I've hugged this man more than once in my life, but I'm like genuinely, and I like was like. I just was like,
do you know who you are?
Yeah, right. And he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And he like picked up my sweater that I had dropped and like gave it to me, and I was like, "Thank you." And he was like, "Yeah," and he just like kept walking, like it was like literally nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't even remember it. But it was just like
I walk into 6 people a day like this.
He literally just waits in that hallway for someone to walk out of the dressing room and like
yeah.
But it was just it was like a weird story, about like meeting him. That it was just like, man, I like now that he's risen to all this fame and everything, and like I really see like how everyone appreciates him at this level. I just felt like so like, oh my god, I'm just a person,
He's just a person too, I guess.
Yeah, he is. He is. That's the thing. Like he's just a person, and also we're both literally rappers.
Yeah.
So although I think he probably doesn't actually identify himself as a rapper these days.
That is always fun when they stop identifying themselves as rappers. Like it's like,
well, funny enough, what you brought up the Grammys before about Flower Boy, and he won that one in a rap category, which for him, and I agree with this on a certain level, is that wasn't a rap album.
Yeah, I listened to it a few times this week, and
I would say it could easily be put in the hip hop category, and no one would argue. But it was not a rap album, and he said that in his acceptance speech. He was like, honestly, this is goofy as hell because like there's other rappers out here who had rap albums, and like he was like, thanks.
They're like, the Grammys want to clarify. They're like, this is the black artist category,
exactly.
And Eminem. It's Eminem or the black guys. It's like that's essentially what they do.
That's literally all it is, and that was exactly what he said in his speech too. He was like, you guys picked a bunch of black artists, and you chose this as the black category, not the rap category. He's like, if you want to give me the best album at all the black people here, I will take that. That's what he said that. He was like, but he was like, but this isn't a rap album, so I don't know why you gave me best rap album, but thanks, I guess. Like, is kind of how he went about it. And so, and I would say, out of from Flower Boy to Igor to Call Me If You Get Lost, I would say Flower Boy was the most rap out of the three of them. He's only gone further and further into just like
Igor didn't feel. I was surprised at how that sounded, but I loved it.
Because I mean, he really moved into, in my opinion, like pure music production more than trying to fit in like a rap category or like something like that. Like he produced the hell out of all three.
It's like crafted. It's like finely crafted.
Yeah, for sure. And like watching videos of him like making some of these songs and stuff, like it's literally watching a freaking artist at work, but also like he gets so unbelievably excited when he hears a new sound. Like he's going through samples and he hears a certain drum and he starts jumping around. Oh man, that's gonna be, like, and I just, like, he cares so much about producing art. Like, that at the end of the day is what it is for him. And that, like, for me, like, it's something I have to, like, bring myself back to a lot, when you're dealing with, like, politics in the community or money, being an artist who is very early in this and is not necessarily profitable yet, as with my art, like, there's a lot of things that, like, kind of get in the way. But at the end of the day, and I've said this a million times, but, like, at the end of the day, if you make the art that you wanted to make, you already succeeded.
Right.
Like,
100% agree.
Literally, like, if there's different measures of success for sure, but you succeeded already. You succeeded at creating art because you created this art that, like, it meant something to you, and, like,
and it's something no one else could have made.
Yeah, literally. Even if someone tries to 100% copy it, it's going to be different. Because it's a different person. So that, to me, like, is, like, one of the reasons why he is one of the biggest inspirations to me, is that he's always held fast on that, like, he just wanted to create. Like, the fame and all that came, but he just wanted to create at the end of the day. And that's, like, I mean, I made music for most of my life without ever putting a single song out. It's always just about the creation.
And the way that he came out, the way that they hit the scene, was not the way you come out if you're looking for success. It's not like there's no blueprint to follow there. I mean, I guess starting riots will get you on the news, but, like, I don't know. The video of him meeting Doom, have you ever seen that?
I have seen that. Actually,
that
just
is
saw that,
heartwarming
like, last year or something.
Yeah, man. That video is he's goofing out in the crowd, just loving the show, and then afterwards when he meets him and the way Doom it's as a Doom, I mean, as a huge Doom fan, it's just like, man, that's just, I don't know. It's art.
Yeah, well, and he's like that with a lot of artists. There's a lot of videos out there of him just, like, being a fan. Like, as controversial as it was when he brought Drake to Camp Flognaw and everyone just lost their goddamn mind. Like, he like, literally made an agreement with Drake to perform a specific song that Drake does not perform anymore, and was like, I'm not going to book you on my festival unless you perform this song, because it's my favorite song from you and I want to hear it. And so when Drake went to go perform that song, he said that he was like, I never performed the song, but Tyler said I had to. And you could see, like, for where I was, you could see Tyler run from backstage down into the crowd so he could go be in the crowd experiencing it as a person that's a fan of music. Like, so that, you can't fake that. You can't fake that kind of genuine love for music.
Right.
And, like, I love, like, I mean, personally, I'm never gonna stop being a fanboy of, like, the artists I love, even if I get to their level. Like, I'm always gonna be this much of a fan of Tyler, even if he and I become peers.
Yeah. And that's important. It's important to have those people that you admire in that way, and whose work impacts you in that way. And it's because you don't want to lose touch with what it's like to be a fan.
Yeah.
And and to be excited about something that you can feel but can't really touch. It's a beautiful part about being an artist, is feeling that way towards other artists.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just all sorts types of art too. Not just, like, the art in your own sector, but so many different things that are just like, man, we're all just really creating this stuff, like, every day. Like, there's just more and more incredible things to look at and hear and touch and experience every single freaking day.
And Tyler too, to give him a lot of credit, he can pretty much at this point probably do almost anything he wants. I saw he did a Grinch song, I think, and
he did the entire soundtrack.
The entire soundtrack
to, like, I think it's like 5 songs to the new Grinch that came out with Benedict Cumberbatch. Was it him?
I think so. I happened to stumble upon it a few minutes.
There's like a new animated Grinch that came out a few years ago, and he made like 5 songs for that. Like, this man, as Odd Future, wrote songs about, like, sexual assault.
That's the point I was gonna make. Is that it's
Yeah.
funny because everybody used the example of Ice-T put out Cop Killer, and he's played a cop on 497,000 episodes of Law and Order. But this is that to a whole new level. You're like, wait a minute.
Right? Like, it's a children's movie,
Yeah,
you know?
I
And I
know.
did think about that when I heard that he was going to be doing that. I was like, imagine like the family, right? That like sees the movie, their son or
Goes
daughter is
Googling.
like
Yeah.
really into music. They love the song. They find out who the song's by Tyler the Creator and they just are obsessed with it. And their parent, being a great parent, is like, oh my God, like our child is so inspired by this music. Like we should let them listen to this artist more. And then they go look up his discography, and one of the songs is in all caps, "Bitch Suck Dick." Like that is like, like that's wild, you know?
Yeah, it must be so hard to be a parent, and I especially it's funny. I kind of grew up in that generation where there was a big divide between what the world was like when my parents were younger and me. So it's like at least now, like if I had kids, I'd understand. Okay, well, I understand what an iPhone is and like how they can do stuff. But like
Yeah,
if yeah, kids are so savvy too. They'd be all up
I
on
know.
that.
Yeah, so but it's wild. But yeah, I mean he's done he he really can do anything he wants at this point
Right.
because he's done music, which he does like every aspect of that to begin with. He has done, all these crazy different types of music too. He does fashion. He's directed a lot of his own music videos and stuff, and then he's also done a few other like participatory roles on directing like short films and stuff. So he's broken into that. He created his own perfume. He created his own nail polish. He created his own line of luggage. Like,
Okay, why not?
and so like, and that's not to like beat a dead horse and keep bringing this up, but it really just comes down to like the desire to create art,
Right.
like he's like, I don't want to just make music. I want to make every form of art that I can think of,
Well,
and
it's
I,
also like you ask some people, like, what would you do if you had like $10 million? And there's some people who would be like a line of cocaine and I'd never leave my pool. And then there's some people who
just
would
the one
do,
line.
well, like I guess a mountain of cocaine. But there's some people who would do what Tyler does because he could be sitting there just snorting cocaine by the pool all day. But he's also not going out there. He could be chasing he could be chasing paychecks that he probably could get, might not be as fulfilling, but he's doing what he wants to do. And that's
Yeah.
admirable. And also from a mental, it takes a certain amount of mental health strength to be able to make those decisions, the best
Yeah.
creative decisions for yourself while still maintaining your own identity and not being afraid to go in the press and be like, you guys are, what the fuck's wrong with you guys?
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I mean, something I very much admire. It's something I think about constantly as I continue to grow, which um, I'm very fortunate that I continue to see growth constantly in my music
Very
career.
important thing.
So, theoretically, as long as I don't fuck it up, I'm only going to keep getting bigger. And I'm constantly keeping that in the back of my head about like, how would I navigate some situations like this? How would I
Yeah.
navigate, the media being down my throat about something that I said, or the media telling me I'm putting my money wrong, or something like
Right.
that, or that kind of stuff. And he is a big inspiration to me because it always comes down to like I'm doing what's fulfilling me. And it
Right.
doesn't matter if what fulfilled me today is the stark complete polar opposite of what fulfills me tomorrow. But like I'm chasing the thing that's fulfilling me, and that like I resonate with that a lot, especially like just dealing with just different mental health issues and stuff throughout my life. Like that's the thing that's always kept me going, is like chasing that thing that's going to make me feel fulfilled, and not just chasing it but making it happen for myself. Like I want to make art, so let me figure out a way for me to make art. Like I want to travel, so let me figure out a way to rig up my freaking Honda Accord that I can take it for 3 weeks living in it on the road to go on this tour, like because that fulfills me. And
Yeah.
like gets me in trouble sometimes too, chasing the things that fulfill me. But
But but it's like if you sat around doing nothing, there's a lot of other ways to get in trouble that way. So you might as well get in trouble doing what you want to do.
yeah, exactly. That's gonna,
Trouble will find you
provide.
everywhere.
Bruh, who are you telling?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we probably can wrap up there, but it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Shout out your social media stuff where people can find you, any of that stuff, or anything else you want to toss in.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Beedo. That's Beedo. And you can find my music everywhere at Beedo and on Instagram at Beedo_raps. Also, hopefully, at a show near you soon. I'm doing shows constantly. I'm trying to book these tours and stuff. So, I post everything on my Instagram as far as things that are happening with me on my merch. I post on my Instagram, stuff like that. So it's a great place to follow along the journey.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best. We, the royal we over here at the Articulate Ox podcast. I get the name of my podcast wrong every time I say it. Wish you all the best of luck, and maybe you can come on again someday. We can talk some other
Would
music
love
stuff.
that.
Cool.
Love
All
that.
right. Well, thank you very much for joining me.
Bye.
Anxiety has got me, calling my angels by the name. I'm itching, no, I'm scratching my head inside, repair my brain torn, exploring the pain that's straining inside my veins, closer to click, clock, click, boom, I abstain again, but I don't really like it here. I'm told it's getting good, but I don't really like it here. Dreams smothered out backwood, and I don't really like it here. You said you knew I would give up, cause I don't like it here. In the end, the story never picks up where you left off on the page. The bookmarks, Bleeding Heart Club turned away and left you in a cage. Bite marks on the corner, take it back and grow up past the stage. But your membership has been renewed, reused no matter age. And I'm stuck like a broad's edge, loop of dog's fetch, a dry wretch, I'm stuck. And I don't know how I'm going to get this feeling out of my head. I'm fucked. I'm fucked. Baby, I'm fucked. I said I'm fucked. Some days I'm not there yet. I've walked through the valley, I still feel I fear it. Some days it's just an alley, I still cannot hear you. Some days the mirror still repeats, so I'ma kill ya. Yeah, I need a bullet for breakfast. That's the rye in my coffee. Green cup misspelled, but I digress. I know I'm waiting to off me this coffin comfy. Versace, tell Joyner Luke I'm not sorry. Too often quasi okay. My stomach wishy-washy like I'm still on the ride. I'm feeling the vibe, and next thing I know there's about to say a rise. I'm feeling the dread, I'm stuck in my head. There's only one way I can stop seeing red. The swats ain't enough again. No more talk, it's called off. Take my ass to bed, I'm stuck. And I don't know, I'm stuck. And I don't know how I'm going to get this feeling out of my head. I'm fucked.